everybody? It is June 10th, Friday. Me and James is going to come back with some hot topics for Push Talk. You don't want to miss this conversation. People are dying because they're waiting on us. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Hey everyone, so it is Sean and we are back. Today is June 10th. James, haven't been live in like a week.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But
it's been so busy.
Yeah.
It's been busy. But you know, there's a lot. I think we put out a message the other day on Monday. I think me and Ali said, "What's up, Ali? What's up?" I'm sorry. We put a message in on Monday, kind of talking about one of the big things that's been happening around America, and I don't want to not continue to bring this conversation up because I think it's extremely important. But gun violence in America, we know that. It's not new, and I don't want to paint the picture that this is new, right? This is not new. Gun violence has been going on in America forever, right? But what really triggered us to really looking at it, and not us, but the United States, is what happened in Buffalo, where we see a white young man decided that he wanted to go in and kill people just because of the color of their skin, and he went into the only grocery store in that whole city of Buffalo called Tops, and he began to shoot people, And what I will say, and I'm going to start by going here, we know that there was another shooting like a week and a half later at Uvalde at the elementary school. 19 kids were killed, and 2 teachers were killed. And a father or a husband of one of the teachers had a heart attack, so he died as well.
Right.
But one of the things that really threw me off was that there were people who were on one side of the aisle who gave recognition. They gave recognition to what happened in Uvalde, which they should have done. They should have done it, right?
Agreed.
But even till today, have still not wished the condolences to the family of people who lost in Buffalo. And my question continues to be, what makes us so much? Well, what makes the people in Buffalo so much different than the people in Uvalde? If we're pro-life, as much as we talk about, then whether a person is 84 years old or whether they're 8 years old, their life is still as valuable. And I have to admit, like I'm upset. Like, how do you feel about all this stuff that's going on with gun violence? Definitely when I feel like we can do things like you're a gun owner, aren't you?
I am.
And you support the Second Amendment.
Yes.
I support the Second Amendment, but I also think that there's things that we can agree on. Red flag laws, meaning that we are able to flag people who may be a mental health risk to society. It's not an argument that we need to be having.
And I've stated that on numerous occasions, and I will continue to holler from the mountaintops that we need to have stricter laws in being able to ascertain, to be able to get gun permit / purchase. The only problem with that I see is because you can only regulate so much.
Right.
But the issue is going to come through those who can't go through the, for lack of a better phrase, the legal process of going to the county courthouse, filling out the paperwork, so on and so forth, that they will just go to the gun shows. And which is easy because these guys, there's no real waiting period. These guys come in with money and purchase and drive away with the weapon of their choice.
But this is the thing I think that's pretty interesting about it is that when you got your carry permit in the state of Georgia, didn't you have to go through a background check in order to get it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So now we know that the state of Georgia has passed a law that says you no longer need your carry permit. Be allowed to openly carry in the state of Georgia, right?
But as a man of color, I still would prefer to have a carry permit.
But for you, not even for you, some people, that's the first time they actually have a background check ran on them, is when they were actually going to get the permit.
Right.
And now that Georgia's eliminated that process, we've expanded our ability to be able to purchase a gun without a background check, pretty much in the state of Georgia. And I don't think that, I mean, again, if a person's not mentally there, or a person who's an abuse to like their family was, just locked up for beating up a woman or something like that, they should not have the right to get a gun right now and immediately, right? So red flag laws we can agree on. I think everybody agrees on the fact that everybody who purchases a gun should be background checked before you're allowed to purchase a gun. Now, there is a debate about whether not, so there's some people I know, right, who have nonviolent offenses, and because of the fact that the nonviolent offenses became a felony, they're not able to purchase a gun, but they're no threat to society, right? We've never addressed that aspect, that a person who writes bad checks, does that mean that they're ineligible to carry a gun? But yet, again, I think as we talk about expanding background checks, we need to talk about expanding background checks, but also talk about looking at the type of charges that we want to say, hey, these people are not eligible to carry a gun, right? Because everybody who has a felony doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to purchase a gun. Because some charges don't fit it, right? If you were running bad checks,
white collar
crimes, right?
Well, it doesn't necessarily. You're a felon, but that doesn't make you violent,
right? So we understand that. So expanding background checks. So red flag laws, expanding background checks, and I think the other thing that they're trying to do when it comes down to gun violence, or one of the things that's floating around. What was the other thing they were trying to float around here?
The ban.
The ban on assault rifles, right?
Yes, definitely should go back to that. It worked.
But the thing is, though, why do we need AK-47s as a like this? It's not even a hunting weapon.
But that was the reason. That was part of the reasoning, and before, if I remember correctly, as a kid, as a young man, that came up. Oh, we use it for hunting. The NRA, they were able to. That was one of the spins that they were putting on it. Was going out there. They had politicians in hunting gear, but they were using AK-47s.
I think there was actually a lady running for Congress in Georgia who actually just started a fundraiser, saying if you donate at least, I think, like $5, and don't quote me on this, Marjorie Taylor Greene, but if you donate a small amount, you'll be put into an auction to win an AK-47.
Right.
But that's the country we live in.
That's crazy.
That's the country we live in. But I also want to.
Let me add this in. But see, that's the same type of weapon that you can't you might be able to purchase at a regular gun store, but you could definitely purchase at a gun show.
Yeah, but the thing about it is it's easier.
That the military.
But it's easier to purchase that than it is to purchase a handgun.
Yes.
And that's the crazy part about it.
Yes.
I think even in the state of Georgia, it's easier for you to get a shotgun than it is for you to get a handgun, right?
That is correct.
And the reality is that, once again, like, what do we really use shotguns for? And I'm not hunting. I get it.
Hunting and home protection. Now, it's not typically most handguns would be considered like self-protection because you can carry it on your person. However, a shotgun or a hunting rifle are not. So, but they're easier to get because they're used for recreational purposes, or should be. That's what they were designed for, was to bring down animals for consumption.
I get that, but my thing is this, right? And don't think I'm anti Second Amendment, right? The Second Amendment was put in place during a time in our country where we were at war with other countries. And it was basically saying that the government will never get to a place to where the citizens don't have a voice. And if the citizens have to stand up, they have the right to bear arms and stand up and fight for the democracy, right? Not like January 6th, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but they had the right to stand up and protect the democracy, to stand up for the democracy. And that's the reason why we have the right to bear arms. It was not designed so that people can have something in their house, so if somebody breaks into the house, that they can just shoot the person or be able to stand my ground, right? It wasn't designed so that a person like Trayvon Martin can be walking through his neighborhood and somebody who's just trying to be a neighborhood superhero watch person to go and kill him. It wasn't designed for a person who was like Ahmaud Arbery, who's running through jogging through his own community. And three white gentlemen decided they want to stop him because he looked like a risk. And when he decided that he was going to keep trying to run, they shot him. Right. It wasn't designed for that, right? It was designed for them to be able to, for people to be able to say, hey, if the government ever gets too big for their britches, we as a people are more powerful than the government. We make the government, right? And we have the right to stand up to the government. And to stand up for our democracy and protect ourselves on the battlefield. And it was designed, again, during the time that the Second Amendment was put in place, was a time where we were at war with Britain, right? So it was basically saying the people had the right to bear arms and protect the United States. But it wasn't designed for us to be able to bear arms and have war within ourselves within the United States. And that's the way we've gotten to. But one of the things that has really captured me, like I want to put up the pictures of the Buffalo victims, right? How can we not look at these people, and definitely as a black person, and be able to see my grandmother, my mom, my brother, my sister, my uncle, my auntie, right, in this picture? And I even think about it from this perspective. There was one lady who was in the picture who they mentioned that she had just left her husband from the nursing home, right? And she was going to home, like she was going to the store to go pick up some groceries to cook for her family. I don't know, but I think we actually even have a clip from his her son where he's talking about it. So let's play that clip, Ali.
There is nothing, then, respectfully, senators, you should yield your positions of authority and influence to others that are willing to lead on this issue. The urgency of the moment demands no less. My mother's life mattered. My mother's life mattered. And your actions here today will tell us how much it matters to you. Thank you.
And right after this son gave this emotional plea, literally, right after the son gave an emotional plea, the bill that was being presented was a domestic violence bill, a domestic terrorism bill, which means that they were going to expand the penalties for people who actually do or commit domestic violence crimes on our soil. Right? It didn't even pass. And I thought it was interesting that he stated to them, like, what you do in the next few hours is going to determine how you feel about my mother. Right. And again, that was a victim of someone who lost a family member in Buffalo. And again, Uvalde is extremely sad. Parkland was extremely sad. Sandy Hook was extremely sad. But so was Charleston, South Carolina. So was Buffalo. And those were racially motivated. And this is the part that kills me about America when we have this discussion, that the FBI director, Chris Wray, who was appointed by former President Trump, stated that the biggest threat to the American democracy today is white supremacy and domestic terrorism, right? But that's not a conversation that we're willing to talk about. And even even past that, I think that the Uvalde family came out, and I know we have a couple of, let's just show the picture of the kids from Uvalde and the teachers. This is crazy, right? Keep it on here for a second, but this is crazy because I want everybody to see these kids' faces, right? These were babies. I mean, they were going to school literally to get an education. This is the last week of school, I think, in Uvalde. Right. One of the teachers down there, she literally used her body as a tool, as a shield to protect her kids. Yeah. And while her husband's planning her funeral, he has a heart attack. And her children now, I think they have 4 children, are left without a parent, right? And I love the fact that they started a GoFundMe for them, and they raised over $1 million when they were only trying to raise like $10,000. But the reality is that money is not going to bring their parents back, right? The reality is that money is not going to bring any of these kids back. And we had actually a testimony, I think her name is Mia, testifying, and where she was actually one of the students. And I just want us to listen to what she said, because this gave me chills.
We were just watching a movie, and then she got an email, and then she went to go lock the door, and he was in the hallway, and they made eye contact. And then she went back in the room and she told us, go hide. And then we went to go hide behind my teacher's desk and behind the backpacks. And then he shot the little window. And then he went to the other classroom. And then there's a door between our classrooms. And he went through there and shot my teacher and told my teacher goodnight and shot her in the head. And then he shot some of my classmates and the whiteboard. When I went to the backpacks, he shot my friend that was next to me. And thought he was gonna come back to the room, so I grabbed the blood and put it all over me. And
What did you do then when you put the blood on yourself?
just stayed quiet, and then I got my teacher's phone and called 911.
And what did you tell 911?
I told her that we need help and to send the police in our classroom.
So this is one of the things that kind of is aggravating. It doesn't make me feel any better about the country in which I stay in, because you hear this little girl talking about the fact that this guy came into her room and like shot her teacher and then shot one of her best friends, and she had to take the blood of your best friend or one of your friends and put it on herself and act like she was dead, because he came into the room saying literally to 8-year-olds that today you're gonna die. And yet as a country we can't galvanize around just saying that AK-47 should not be in. And let's put back up the picture of the victims on Uvalde. One of the things that really caught me off guard is Matthew McConaughey, I forgot his name, but he's an actor. He spoke at the White House this week.
Right.
And he mentioned how one of the students, because of the AK-47 being shot with the AK-47 and the bullet exploding, you can come back over here, but the bullet exploding and like blowing up their whole body, the only way they were able to tell who it was by the shoes that were left. That's crazy.
Right.
By the shoes that were left. Or if there were some students that they couldn't even figure out who they were, but they had to use DNA in order to figure it out. Why do we need a weapon that can do that? Not only to children, but to people in general, right? And even people who have served in war before says that AK-47s are guns of war. They're used on the battlefield.
That's it.
In America, and this is the part that scares me, I love America, right? You know, I got a flag sitting in front of my house and everything. Okay, when that flag got ripped, I bought a new one and put a new one up, right? But the point of the matter is that, for me, if we don't start to do something, and if we don't start to say that the lives of people matter, right? And I'm not talking about just from the fact of abortions, the lives of people who are living right now matter, then we're going to look totally different in 20 years from now. And America will cease to be America. And just because we're so great now doesn't mean that we are guaranteed to be great forever. We can look at Roman empires that are fallen. You know what I'm saying? Like there's Babylon that has fallen. So many empires that were great have fallen because of the fact that they stopped caring about the people. And that's America's on track to be that.
You know, one of the things it brings about conversation again, particularly in the case of Uvalde. And when it comes to about the topic of mental health, there was clearly something wrong with that young man. Where on the other side of the coin, and that brings about why you need to have extensive background checks, mental health checks when it comes to purchasing, because he bought one and then went back 3 or 4 days later and bought another.
Yeah.
And a bunch of rounds to go along with it. But the reason why he used it brings, comes into question about his mental health and the kind of person he was in school, at work, has come up.
But I will actually quote Joe Biden on this, right? Joe Biden made a statement literally 2 hours before there was another mass shooting. And he's made a statement last week where he stated that every country has mental health issues. Every country's just not shooting up itself.
Right.
The reality is that America has more guns than citizens. That's the reality, right? That if you look at the next country next to us that has the highest amount of guns, we outnumber them almost 20 to 1, literally, in the amount of guns that we have, right? That we have on the ground. So the problem is, mental health is always going to be a problem. It's a problem around the world, right? The problem is that people have access to weapons of mass destruction here. There was even, I think, right while Joe Biden was giving his speech, a guy literally had went into a store 2 hours before he went and shot up the hospital. 2 hours before and purchased the gun, and then went in directly from purchasing the gun to shooting up the hospital and killing the surgeon and people in the hospital, right? The reality is that we make it so easy to kill. Like, it's easier to purchase a gun in some states than it is to get a driver's license, or rent a car, or you know what I'm saying. Like, so those type of things. That's what it's easier to get a gun than to go into a hospital and get treated for your medical condition because of the fact that you can't afford medical. You can't, like,
That's right.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
where are we as a nation when we prioritize your right to carry, right, over people's lives, over healthcare, over mental health, over education? Like, it's more important. We'll have those battles, but yet we want to sit around here as we know Roe versus Wade is probably getting ready to be struck down within a few weeks, right? That's more important to us, right? To tell a woman what she can do with her body. But it's not important for us to say we have to stand up for our kids, we have to stand up for our black community, we have to stand up for our Asian community, we have to stand up for those who are being targeted right now. And we have to stand up for these communities because, I mean, as a nation, like, I think kind of like what we was talking about yesterday with the group from Brazil, I made a statement that I said, you know, it's interesting because the one part about America that makes us so interesting is that we are still the greatest experiment in the history of this world, right? What America's trying to do running a democracy with saying that you have a freedom to your religion, I have a freedom to my religion, is the greatest experiment in the history of the world because it's interesting when you try to take a person who's Muslim, a person who is Jew, a person who is Christian, a person who is Catholic, a person who is atheist, a person who is all these different religions and say, hey, I need all y'all, put y'all all in the same room and you guys need to figure out how to work together because we have different values, we have different beliefs, right?
Correct.
It is the greatest experiment ever. But the one core principle, I don't care whether you're a Christian or whether you're a Jew, whether you're Muslim or whatever you come from, is that we should be able to at least stand up and say we have an obligation to protect each other. And if it requires me to give up my AK-47 in order to make my neighbor, you feel more safe, what is it?
Well, I'm not sure that, well, the obligation to protect each other, yes. However, I believe that the powers that be, those who are in charge, and some people will call this a conspiracy theory, that the elimination of people of color, anything that will allow, because some of these rules have not been changed because it took place these crimes took place against people of color. Now, mind you, for instance, the shooting in South Carolina,
Charleston,
race-based, people of color. Buffalo, people of color. A large majority of people in Charleston, Virginia, people of color. But it wasn't exactly a shooting, but the man drove his car through as a weapon. But so when people of color are targeted, they, and I'm not really trying to make this a race thing, but it's fairly obvious to a number of folks that it looks as if it's race. And the rules don't apply, the same rules do not apply to people of color as they do for those who are not. And so when you see mass shootings, and so far no changes have been made, even after the mass shooting in Vegas. Mm-hmm. When they had that, no changes made in when it came to laws and gun rights and so on and so forth. Nothing. And the citizens of the United States are fed up with it. And
citizens of the United States. Let me tell you the reason why I say that, right?
It's shameful that we should even have to go through this.
But most people in the United States will agree that we need some kind of reform when it comes to gun rights, right?
Yes.
But I can't say enough of them are tired of it, right? We were tired of it. Uvalde should have never happened because Sandy Hook happened, right?
Right.
Parkland should have never happened because Sandy Hook happened. Sandy Hook should have never happened because Columbine happened. So the reality that people have an appetite, and one of the things that I really want to do in this season of it is as an organization, for me personally, I'm going to do as much as I can to bring as much light to this situation as possible, right? Because at the end of the day, the moment we stop acting like it doesn't exist and we go back to our norm, then that's the reason why we continue to get the results that we did. We need Congress to do something now. Even if they don't ban assault rifles straight out, raising the minimum wage to from 18 to 21, where we're seeing most of the kids who are purchasing these guns and using these assault rifles are young, would be a huge benefit. And I think I heard it on The View, like, we can't get so caught up in what we want, right? I would love for them to ban AK-47s, but if I can't get nothing out of it, but they raise the minimum wage from 18 to 21, at least that's progress,
That's
right?
smart, yes.
We have to take whatever progress we can get in this moment, because at the end of the day, while we're sitting around here debating about the small logistics of it, somebody else got killed. Somebody else is going to get killed today. Before the end of the day, there will at least be 10 people, or at least 10 people in the United States killed by gun violence, right?
Over the course of this weekend, absolutely.
But not only that, it's not even that, right? We haven't even. And for those of people who support law enforcement, I support law enforcement. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think so very much, right? What does this do for them? They don't want to see regular citizens out there walking around with AK-47s. They don't want to see regular citizens able to openly carry without having a background check ran on them, right? We put them at risk too, and that's sad.
But here's the thing, and I know I saw this video on YouTube and about a year ago, maybe two. Anyway, there was an experiment done. White guy, I think might have been Arizona. You know what I'm talking about, where the guy walked down the street carrying his AK-47. No police, or the officer who did stop, he talked to him and let the guy go on about his way. White guy. Black guy does the same thing, walks the same stretch of road, and has 4 or 5, 6 officers come and start asking, and then takes the weapon away from him. But he did exactly the same thing on the same stretch, on the same block that the white guy did. The black guy did the exact same thing, but they wanted to put him arrest, ask him a bunch of questions as far as, do you have a record and whatnot. And you can clearly hear the difference between the conversations
that they had.
But
you know the funny thing, I've been telling this story for the last couple of weeks. I was inside of Publix, and there was a white guy on the aisle that I was on, and he was openly carrying his gun, right? Everybody came down that aisle. Right. Everybody felt comfortable. They felt safe, right? 2 or 3 hours over, there was a black guy who was openly carrying his gun, right? Mm-hmm. People would go down the aisle, see him openly carrying a gun, back up, take their cart, and go down to the next aisle. Some of them came on the same aisle as the white guy who was carrying his thing. And one of the things I really want African Americans to understand is that we think that just because, like even in the state of Georgia, a lot of them are excited about this whole bill that was passed because they're like, oh yeah, now I can openly carry. The reality is, you just brought up a very valid point. You openly carrying it looks different than when another person openly carries, or a person from another race openly carries. Even Ali open carrying inside of a store, it's gonna look different than me open carrying inside of a store, right? Because of the fact that people tie his culture, his race to different things, right? And for Black America, even this law we just passed in Georgia did nothing but put a bigger target on our back than that was there before, because now officers have, quote unquote, the stop and frisk, because now you openly carrying, hey, can I run your name, kids? That gun registered to you. Now I can easily have something to stop you for and have a conversation with you, right? And that's something that we have to be in the real about, is that this doesn't do anything to help. And I just want to make sure that we keep as much spotlight on this. I know we can go on and on about this and talk more about it, but I just want to make sure that we can keep as much spotlight to it. And I need everybody, if you are out there, if you're listening to this podcast today, call your senator, call your congressperson, and let them know that we want action on this. And one of the things I've been hearing all over the news is that Senator Chris, I forgot his last name, but Chris out of Connecticut, who I think oversees, Chris Murphy, he has made a statement. They asked him, they said, does this feel like, why do you have so much hope about this time? He says, because it feels different. He said, people are calling their senators. They are calling their congresspeople. Let's not lose momentum in this moment.
Absolutely.
Pick up the phone, call your senator, call your congresspeople. And if you can't help people in other states call their senators and congresspeople, we need them to know that we will not be okay with no action this time. And that's going to be extremely important. But another thing I want to talk about real quick, and I think we can go more into this next week, because it will continue next week.
Oh, yeah.
Last night we had some prime time TV time, where they actually had information about the January 6th Commission. And what tears me up about the January 6th Commission is that, how can we say that January 6th was a peaceful protest when law enforcement officers lost their life? People who were a part of the protest lost their life. One was right here from, I think, from Georgia, right? Lost their life. If we can't be real with ourselves as a nation, who can we be real with? And that's going to be the big question, right? The fact that we have a large amount of people in America who still said that was peaceful protest, but yet they call, when people were protesting for George Floyd's killer to be brought to justice, or they were protesting in Brunswick for Ahmaud Arbery, we said that those were, but nobody got killed. Nobody got hurt. Unless the police came out and did it, right? But we call those unpeaceful protests. What is wrong with America?
Denial from, well, and frankly, I hate to have to say it like this, but from non-people of color.
Yeah.
Denial. I mean, it's when those things have taken place. Number one, crimes against people of color to begin with, but you see the huge difference and disparity of how protests are viewed.
Right.
When clearly there is violence that is taking place, clearly when there is treason that is taking place, because don't get me wrong, that was a treasonous act. At any other time, 200, 300 years ago, and at the founding of this country, that would have been considered treason, and you would have been shot and
because
hung.
I think back.
And today, even with video, you still have you got names, you got faces, and you got names to go along with it. Organizers, the whole get down, and I'm looking at this thing come across my screen last night and going, 36 months of probation for treason.
Yeah.
And
we got black people who are not even black people. We got people out here who are selling weed who get more time than that, right?
Right. And you have and in any other country in the world, treason is an offense that will get you locked up for life.
Yeah.
Or even killed.
But my biggest thing is that my biggest thing when it comes down to when we think about January 6th is I think it exposed, and this is the part that makes it scary for me, it exposed how at risk our democracy is.
Yes.
This great experiment is, right?
Yes.
That and now, like even in the information, so I don't know if you've seen this part, but it was literally like the plot was, hey, even if we can't get Pence, if we can get him out of the Capitol, right, and it goes to overnight and it doesn't get certified through night, then it changes the game the very next day. So it was just trying to delay the time, right?
Right.
I give kudos to Vice President Mike Pence. He said he would not leave. He stood up in it, and he stayed there and made sure that he did what he needed to do, right? That we certified the election, that democracy continued. But we were only a few hours out from not even having a real democracy anymore.
Yeah.
And you got people, like, what kind of country are we when we are leaders that we don't really support? We said then if we don't support them, if they don't follow our agenda, then they need to die. They were going after Speaker Pelosi. Yes. They were trying to get Alexandria Cortez. They were going after the Vice President of the United States. And the president, when he was threatening to send National Guard troops into peaceful protests. Remember that now.
Right.
He was telling governors, like, if you can't handle the black people in your streets, I'll handle them for you, right? When he seen this, he sat at the White House, and the reports are showing now that he was sitting in the White House, literally watching and cheering them on and saying, keep going forward. And even when he tweeted and told them to go home, he said, you're good people. You're good people. You fought hard for your democracy, right? But and the fact that it's crazy is that this didn't just start on January 6th. This was being plotted in November, in December. And I think that as an American, every person needs to be tuned in to what's going on with this January 6th commission. And it's a shame on Fox, shame on networks like that who said that they wouldn't even give it airtime, right?
That's right.
Because reality is that America almost lost its democracy. And I was watching this TV show one time. We talked about gun legislation, right? Somebody brought up a very valid point. They said that if it comes out that African Americans have the same amount of guns as the other side of America has, you guarantee your butt they're gonna find a way to start limiting. They're gonna find a way to change gun policies to be able to get those guns, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What happened on January 6th was terrorism. It was domestic terrorism. And if that was any other community, and I'm not just saying the black community, if that was any other community that committed that crime,
Yes.
to today, Republicans would be having a fit. And this is not about Democrats or Republicans, but shame on Republicans for not wanting to stand up and say that we have to protect our democracy when they take an oath to do so.
Right. And okay, so let me start there. Pence, I tip my hat to that dude for standing up for the oath and the position and office that he holds.
Absolutely.
Because he took a stance and did not compromise that position, that title. He did not compromise it to appease
Somebody's
the
ego.
president.
Yeah, somebody's ego.
To someone's ego, because they were having a hissy fit because it appeared that they lost the election. That's number one. But number two is, how do you call yourself a true American or a patriot of this country, but then fight against the democracy that gave you that right to be a
But you know what even drives
to
James,
put you in a position to even call yourself a patriot.
what drives me even more crazy is some of these same people who are out here saying these are peaceful protesters. The day after it happened, the night that it happened, there's video of them saying, like, oh, Trump needs to be held liable for this. So, but
Right.
now they're
jumping ship.
Right? Do you forget that this is
Bunch of
2021,
rats
2020,
jumping ship.
like 2021 and 2022?
Yeah.
There is video of you saying this. Not no audio, not no leak, not no maybe this could be. There's video of you saying that Trump was wrong, that Trump should be held accountable for this. But every opportunity that you guys had to hold him accountable, you voted against having a bipartisan commission to investigate this, and that's the reason why Democrats had to take over and just say, "Hey, we'll start a commission in the Congress." It should have always been taken out of the hand of Congress and put like we did with 9/11. And so? Let me ask you a question: what was the difference between 9/11 and what was the difference between January 6th? Is the people in which were the ones who were behind the issue, right?
Right.
And on 9/11, whether you were black, Asian, white, Hispanic, we stood for our country because our country was under attack. We were all on one accord. We were all on one band, and we said, and we gave our president. We said, whatever you decide, whatever intelligence,
We're gonna back you
whatever intelligence leads you to, we got your back, right?
Right.
We need to be able to do the same thing on January 6th because the voters spoke. The voters spoke, and instead of us actually being able to just digest it, I didn't vote for certain people. And when that election happened, I had to go and just deal with it and understand that, hey, for the next
Right.
4 to 6 years,
So-
this is my reality, right? And I supported them because of the fact that, you know why I supported them? Because of the fact that at that moment, whether I voted for them or not, they became the leader of my country. And I support my country, right?
Right.
And I hope that they would have done things
that
differently, but they didn't.
That makes you more of a true patriot.
So maybe we need to run for
Yeah.
office, me, you, and Ali.
But yeah, why not?
Yeah, Ali,
But-
you down?
But I mean, it definitely raises a question about what patriotism is.
Yeah.
And once that is defined, do you fall under that umbrella? Because if you're, you know, and if you have to answer, if you can answer, no, I don't fall under that umbrella because I'm against this, that, and the other thing, and then can you truly call yourself a real patriot?
Right.
Because defending democracy, defending our country against enemies of the country, both outside and inside, but you are the insurrectionist that is causing the inside conflict, you're not a patriot.
Yeah. You know, I would have to say, I'm not even going to lie, and I mean, everybody in office knows this pretty much. The last 3 weeks have probably been, for me, the hardest 3 weeks of my life. To have to kind of watch what's going on, or not the hardest, but they have been extremely hard on me, right? Because I'm looking at the world, and the America I thought that we lived in, it has proven to me that it's not the America I thought we were, right? But I still love it. I still want to do the best I can. And I want to challenge everybody out there, like literally, if you want to see America at its best and you want to see America accomplish what it has to accomplish, we first have to make sure that our voices are heard in this society. And the way we make sure our voices are heard in this society is we have to get out and vote for people who stand for our interests.
Yes.
If the women and men who are upset about the Roe versus Wade decision, the only way we're going to make a change in that is we have to elect Congress people, elect senators who are going to pass legislation where this is not a debatable question anymore.
Right.
For those who want to argue about gay marriage or whatever the case may be, again, vote your interest. But don't stand on the sideline and complain about what's going on when you're not even putting a voice in your society.
Right.
And with that being said, there's a reminder that June 21st, we have an election, and we have a few people. In fact, Black Push is so proud to announce that over the next 4 podcasts, we'll be having Nicole Horn on. We'll be having Representative William Bodie on. We'll be having Charlie Bailey. He'll be coming in, and we'll also be having Kwanzaa Hall. So we actually have people who are coming on the podcast who are running for in this runoff election. So you can hear what they have to say, and we're going to ask them some hard questions. We're going to be honest very challenging. So that starts tomorrow. So Black Push is going to do something we never really do. Saturday and Sunday of this week, we're actually going to run a podcast, and it'll run at the same time at 1:30. One would be of Nicole Horn, and one would be of William Bodie, and then next Monday we'll have Charlie Bailey and Kwanzaa. But I really want people to hear from them, and some of the questions that I've been hearing that that have been avoided, I want to make sure that we address. Because as a politician, you cannot hide behind your opinion, and you cannot hide behind your record, right? But I want to challenge everybody, continue to call your Congress people, continue to call your senator, and let's continue to try to hear each other, man. Because, I know, this is not about a black or white initiative. And it's not about race; it's about right and wrong. At the end of the day,
absolutely.
And I don't mean I don't. One of the things that I am very cautious of is I want to make sure that I leave my nephew's generation, my niece generation, and if God bless me with kids one day, my kids' generation, better than the way I received it. And that for me, somebody asked me what's going to be my legacy, is that I if it required, that's when I'm willing to lay my life down, to leave this country in a better state than it was when I received it. And we have so much work to do, but it's not just Black Push, it's not just one organization. It's going to take us as citizens to move the needle. Absolutely. And with that, I wanted to give them a shout out. We had a great opportunity yesterday. We got called by the Secretary of State's office because they were hosting a group from Brazil who were doing social injustice. They're community leaders. And I think we got that picture, but these are all the wonderful people who came and visited us from Brazil. You can keep them up there for a second. They came and visited us from Brazil, and we talked about social injustice, voting rights. We talked about religion and how it's different over in Brazil and that. But kudos to them. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for Shannon Jones and Makia for coming out and also being some of my speakers. But it was a great conversation, great dialogue. So I also want to just remind everybody that we are going ready to have our 5th One Accord conference. So in less than a year, we have had 5 conferences already. And I know we showed the clip of me doing my speech at the One Accord conference yesterday. But we are ready to go down to Macon, James, and you played a huge part with this with Pastor Bumpus. And he's hosting us over at, what's the name of his church again?
New Fellowship Missionary Baptist.
New Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church.
Pastor Bumpus.
So thank you, Pastor Bumpus. We have some great speakers that are going over there. We have Reverend Townsend. We have Reverend Shannon Jones. We have Pastor Bumpus. We have
Reverend Walter Glover.
Walter Glover. Another person just came on board today, so his information will be put out today. We have Apostle Fritz Musser from Tabernacles coming. Nice. So we're going down to Macon, and we want to make it known that we have to do more and we have to do better.
And the mayor.
And the solicitor. The solicitor
yes.
Of Macon. So we're just super excited. If you have not registered, go to our Facebook page, go to our website. You can register there. And this time will be the first time we've actually promoted to where you can actually register to be there in person or be there virtually, which we always do it virtually, but this would be a great opportunity. And if you have not already gotten our tickets for the One Accord, our first inaugural gala, our night of service gala, will go out on Monday. So I want everybody to pay attention. We're going to put a lot of energy behind this because we're honoring people like Zanona Clayton, Ambassador Young, Shannon Jones, Reverend McDonald, Bishop Jackson, and so many other great leaders in our community.
Yes.
Deborah Scott, Latasha Brown, Helen Butler. I don't want to miss anybody. Henry Hank Thomas, right? Sandra Lee Williams. We're honoring all these people on July
16th.
July 16th. We'll be at the CNN Omni. And when I say it's going to be a night to remember, we actually just got confirmed. Avery Dixon, who was on America's Got Talent, he plays the saxophone, and he's going to be one of our performers there as well.
Absolutely.
And we're looking to bring in artists from New York. We're looking to bring in students who are going to perform. This will be the one event.
The host is?
And the host. I forgot about that. And I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the host. I'm thinking about the One Accord Conference. And we have Rodney Perry, comedian, nationally known comedian, actor Rodney Perry, who will be hosting this event for us.
Yes.
And if you go to his Instagram, it's on his Instagram already. So we are super excited about this. This is going to be a huge event. Please go if you want to sponsor, if you just want to send a gift, if you want to buy a ticket. The tickets start at $200 for general admission, $250 for VIP, or you could buy a table and be a sponsor. But go to www.blackpush.org or check out our Facebook page on Monday. All that information will be on there. But this is information about the gala. You guys stay blessed, stay safe, enjoy your weekend. But don't forget, if you want to make a difference in society, make sure your voice is heard, make sure you get out and vote, and make sure you call every senator and every congressman and let them know that we need to do something about gun violence, and we have to do it today.
We're going to have to speak truth to power.
If we live by what his word says, we're not going to go wrong.
Every human being deserves equal treatment.
If you don't know Vincent's name in your own community, don't call George's name.
Where is the church today?
One is a church, one is a package store. Which one is the greater influence?
We've got to put our foot down and say, as for me and my house, not only will we serve the Lord, but we'll look like him.
One accord is what we need.
Stand up for all of God's children, and let's be on one accord.
The thing about unity with God is that it doesn't come without unity with other people.
May the God in all of us stand with those who are the most vulnerable.
I believe the opportunity to be on one accord is opportunity. When am I going to stop? I'm going to stop when there's no more homeless people. When am I going to stop? I'm going to stop when people no longer have to be afraid to go into a ballot place and cast their ballot. When my white brothers and sisters don't have to eat from Dollar General and that's where they get their only meal from.